You're listening and watching to Metal Sound Media. I am today with Simon from Dawn Red. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing the name of the band well. Dawn Red?
Done,
Yeah.
mate. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Um, who is a singer and violinist for the band, and who, with this band, has been at the forefront of the fight against fascism in the black metal scene, and one could say in metal in general. So personally, I wanted to have a discussion with you today about the importance of anti-fascism in metal music, because I feel that today more and more people, musicians, bands, and fans are talking about the problems in the scene, racism, sexism, homophobia, and well, everything that makes this not necessarily a great place for everyone. I myself, because I have Moroccan origin, I have had trouble because of racism in the scene, and I feel better talking about it now, which is why, given how many people want to discuss now and to, well, discuss the issue, I feel it's the right time. So, as I told you before we started this, we'll talk about music to some extent, but also, well, I guess a lot about politics, and well, this is meant to be a political conversation as well. Um, so the first thing I want to talk about is the issue of racism, because it's easily observable. There are not that many people of color in the scene, not many people with varied origins. And those who come from a different ethnic legacy, such as myself, often suffer from the behavior of some bigots in the scene. In black metal, there are, let's say, kind of everywhere, groups and individuals identifying with the far right, who are a genuine danger to the minorities that want to be part of the scene. What do you think of all that, of the place that, well, racism and racist behaviors have taken in the scene, and what could be the actions that people, bands, fans could take to make things better?
Um, Good question. One thing I'm sort of learning, I've played music in a couple of different scenes, and I think every music scene or every scene of every kind culturally is everything is a microcosm of society. I think so. All the dynamics that exist in wider society exist in every scene as well, and I think so. Even the radical and anarchist scenes, I think, suffer from problems with abusers or problems with sexism or racism, just in the same way that all of society has those issues, because we're all born under and live under capitalism. So even the most like radical or forward-thinking or progressive scenes struggle with these problems, because nothing exists in a vacuum, and even though we might like to think it in these very little subcultural areas that we think we live in, everything ultimately is a part of wider society. I do think, however, certain sections of society have allowed those problems to get worse, and black metal is definitely one of them. There's lots of areas that exists, but I do think fascism and far right ideas have more prominence in black metal than maybe other cultural scenes. I think part of that is because it's been, for a long time, it's been a very underground scene, so it's not been watched or monitored or affected by the outside world as much. All of a sudden, because it's become quite popular in the last sort of 10 years, and also I think because of the internet, a spotlight has been shined on this scene, and it's now all of a sudden very apparent how bad some of these problems have become in this scene and have been sort of gone unchecked. I also think because black metal does have part of black metal's identity is to be evil and to be dark, the less creative people involved in the scene, I think, have just chosen very, very cheap, easy shortcuts to being evil and dark. I think Nazism, homophobia, things like paedophilia, which are all we can all see in the scene, and we all know by name who those people are. that are involved in all those things. They're cheap. It's cheap shock tactics, and it's a cheap shortcut to like a dark or like scary image. So I think that's why it maybe seems particularly bad in black metal. I think in regards to doing things about it, I guess there's like the $1 million question. I guess I don't know if I have all the answers or one concrete answer on this. I think we have to fight fascism everywhere it pops up, all the time, forever. And fascism in black metal is no different to fascism anywhere else. It's the same fucking bullshit. It's the same manipulative people trying to use the harsh winds of capitalism to try and get a foot up over somebody else. So I think the tactics that we use in black metal have to be the tactics that we use everywhere else. I think we should deplatform it. I don't think it should be black metal. I don't think fascism should be given any platform ever. I don't think we should allow it to ever have the chance to spread. So shutting Nazis and fascists down, I think is really important. We've seen shows cancelled before by bands that are obviously racist despite their protestations, which I think can be a really great tactic. Things like that worked especially well in the Oi and skinhead scenes in the 80s and 90s. Those people were really kicked out of punk and Oi because their shows were just constantly attacked and constantly shut down. So I think that can be a good tactic. I also think just talking about this, and as if you are an anti-fascist or someone who just doesn't agree with these ideas, having the courage to speak up and talk about it, which I know is hard, I think is really important, because the more of us that are talking about this, the better, and the more we will realise that actually the far right elements of this scene are the minority. They're just a very, very vocal minority in this scene. So I think we have to be taking action to stop these people from spreading these ideas. And also, the more we talk about it, the safer it is for everybody. And the more we realise that these fucking dickheads are just in the minority, and they are not representative of this scene at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And although they're a minority and not representative of the scene, something I have noticed simply by going to concerts, which I used to do when it was possible, quite often when I go to black metal concerts, which happens a lot because in the end it's one of my favorite genres of music, so well, that happens. I notice a lot of things quite easily, like people wearing T-shirts of bands that I would not dare to even hear about, or even worse, like whatever kind of Third Reich or far right imagery that anyone could think of, quite openly without anyone really doing anything about it. I've seen people making racist jokes while I was there. Those people may not have known me, of course, and did not know who I was. But I remember a specific time when I was at a festival with friends, and a guy that we didn't know, but that was next to us in the campsite with his own friends, was starting to make a lot of racist jokes, and my friends were very uncomfortable because I was right there. And the stupidest thing I could answer was, "I'm used to it," which is true, and it shouldn't be, but it is. And well, all these kind of things led me to believe that the metal scene was not as safe as the media wants to show it. I don't know how exactly it is in the UK, but in France, they tend to tell that metalheads are all nice people. They may look a little different, but they're nice, and that may be true to some extent. But there's this minority of people that are an actual problem, and I've often thought that even if they're a minority in the end, because they are here and they tend to be rather noisy, I believe, in France at least, it's hard for someone like me, for example, to feel like there's a spot that can be mine where I can feel safe. to an extent that I remember the last festivals I went to, well, more than a year ago now, which were black metal festivals. With the friends I went there, we had agreed that if anyone we didn't know would ask who I was, we wouldn't tell them my real name, just to play it safe, because we knew there were Nazi people around, quite probably.
Yeah.
So I believe that organizers need to make a really big effort to uh, clean their audience. I'd say something like that, and it should be good to create spaces at festivals and invite bands to help promote the good fight, to help fight against those fascist people. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a sad state of affairs. Um, I think, yeah, I think that's why deplatforming these people, I think, is so important. I think there's a lot of people. My understanding of racists and the sort of soft fascists is that actually they're usually cowards and not actually very committed to their beliefs, and are very, very quick to deny the things that they may have previously claimed to believe. But those people are very quickly emboldened when they see a far right band on a poster, and you look around and there's 10,000 people at a festival, and everyone seems fine that a band that are clearly Nazis are playing, and the promoters have said no, we're happy with this band playing. The message then is that it is acceptable to have these ideas, and that these ideas are accepted at a festival. And even if the promoter doesn't believe that themselves, and even if the majority of the crowd doesn't believe that themselves, ultimately the message is that fascism is welcome in this situation. So I think the more we can stop, and this is the danger of giving fascists a platform. There is never, ever any benefit of listening to what they have to say. I don't give a fuck about two sides of the two sides of the argument or any of that shit. This is where fascism starts, and then it ends with death camps. It starts in situations like this. Like, fascism loves to get its claws into cultural movements, and this is why there's absolutely no benefit to hearing what they have to say, to tolerating them at any point ever. So I think it's really important that people just aren't given that opportunity. They aren't given. We take as much cultural space off them as we possibly can. And I also think, as anti-fascists and anti-racists and radicals and revolutionaries, we also have to be going into those spaces ourselves and then trying to take up that space as well. Because I think if we pull out of these scenes altogether, then they just have a scene to themselves which they can just build and recruit from. And we've seen that happen loads of times in other scenes before. So I think it's important that we take space away from them and then we occupy space there ourselves as well. And obviously, it's not always that easy. I realize, and the stories you're telling me, it's not always that easy, and it's not a job that everybody can do in every situation, and we have to pick our battles, but we have to just start somewhere, and we have to just start taking space off these people. And I found it's not. We've played festivals that Nazi bands have played before, because we played a festival and we were very, very low down the poster, and there was a Nazi band at the top of the poster, and we realized if we pulled out of that festival, there was no chance. Wasn't going to affect whether this Nazi band played or not. This Nazi band was always going to play. So we made the decision to play, I guess, alongside this Nazi band, but we talked about anti-fascism from the stage, and we had a big photo with an anti-fascist action flag, and we didn't feel that we could stop that band playing that day, but the very least we could do was to try and take up some space and have like some radical voices and alternative opinions and ideas in that space. So I think it's really important that we shut them down and take up space ourselves, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember at a festival, what I had, this kind of trouble that I've mentioned earlier. At the same time, I felt really good that there was a punk band from Germany that was playing that I didn't really know, but there were, just as you've said, giving out speeches between songs before and after the set to talk about anti-fascism and what they believed in. And well, that made me more comfortable, and I had started that festival in the wrong way, so that was a really great thing. So one could say that bigots will always be there to some extent, and the best we can do is to be there as well as a counterpoint.
Yeah.
And so, as a good counterpoint, maybe we can discuss a bit about your new EP that was released through Prosthetic Records last month, or Wildfire, which I guess makes your stance very clear. In I could say is a punch in the face of all the assholes in the scene, and also, for someone like me, I guess it's a beacon of hope. That means that there are people willing to fight for those who may feel excluded. So maybe can you elaborate on the ideas, intentions behind Wildfire?
Yeah, I guess lyrically, it's just about NSBM, and I just find it like really hilarious that all these bands we've seen so many bands use like variants of the swastika, or just use the swastika, or like all the different Nazi symbologies, or like all the different far right dog whistles and logos and phrases and imagery that exists. And then those bands get shows shut down, or they get criticized, and all of a sudden they are claiming to not be Nazis, and like it's just ancient symbols, or it's just like freedom of speech thing, or like it's just about cultural heritage, or whatever. I just find it really interesting, because we, as an anti-fascist black metal band, which until recently was something that didn't really exist, have been like heavily criticized, and we've been called every derogatory name under the sun. And our politics are often criticised, and I just find it interesting, because like I am incredibly clear about what I believe. I believe in anti-fascism. I believe in freedom and liberty for all. Like I think I couldn't be more clear about what I believe, and more proud of what I believe. And we have never ever backed down, and we've never apologised for anything we've ever said, and we back it up in lots of different ways. And yet we're the band that are criticised, when there's a whole scene of people out there that behind closed doors talk about all these ideas, but when actually pressed and when confronted, are so quick to deny what they believe. I think if you are so quick to backtrack or deny your apparent beliefs, then I think your beliefs count for nothing, and you are disingenuous. I just find that quite interesting with the Nazi black metal scene, because if I believe in something, I will stand by it, because I think it's right. But the same cannot be said for the far right. So I guess that's what those lyrics are about. And I also that's what has me absolutely convinced that we will win, and the light and everything that is good and anti-fascism will win and will triumph over fascism, because we are just so much more genuine and so much more committed to this than they are. And that is from years and years and years of experience of understanding the far right in all its different forms. I think we are just more genuine and more sincere and more committed, and ultimately we will win. So I guess that's what that song was about.
Yeah, well, that's a very great message for all those who suffer from any kind of slurs in the scene, of course.
resistance. Of demanding to have a master. And daring to call it resistance. There's nothing in these songs of which to be ashamed. Everything we sing about, I just as plainly say. For the noble flame of integrity will surely always win. As dawn brings the reckoning, there's nothing in these songs of which to be ashamed. Everything we sing about, I just as plainly say. For the noble flame of integrity will surely always win. As dawn brings the reckoning.
So now to shift maybe from racism to another form of oppression that we may find often also in a scene. Well, June is Pride Month, of course, and well, the metal scene tends to be very masculine, very gendered towards masculinity, often toxic masculinity, and has shown over its history many sexist and oppressive imagery, many sexist and oppressive behaviors, which are still common today, which means that it's really hard for women, for people from the LGBTQIA plus community to feel safe in the metal scene. And of course, there are people from the community also here, which is obvious, as you've said. This is a reflection of society and they are part of it. And what I've noticed, I may be wrong, but I feel like there are more and more bands with women, queer, gay, trans people and allies that are making their voices heard, that are talking about their own issues in the scene and in life in general. And that's obviously a good thing. I'm thinking about bands like Venom Prison or Violet Cold. I feel like there's a solid movement that has been rising in the recent years and solidifying itself. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed that as well. Yeah, I think it's great. I think the internet has been really good for my understanding of these ideas. Yeah, I'm a straight man. I'm hesitant to talk too much about these things because I don't want to speak for anybody, and I don't have the same lived experiences as people from those communities. But my understanding of those experiences has been greatly helped by the internet. I've learned a lot from the internet about what it is to be trans and what it is to be queer, and I'm guessing that's probably the same for everybody. I think so. I do think there's been like a huge jump forward in our understanding of all the different ways you can live a life in this world. And I guess that is then reflected in this scene as well. And I think diversity and representation is so important in culture. I think if you are someone who is from a marginalized background, I think to be able to go to music events and see somebody who looks like you on the stage, I think is incredibly important. And the more it happens, So yeah, I think it's like absolutely fantastic. All those bands you mentioned are great as well. So yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think I have a lot of respect for people like that who people who are marginalised to be able to play in this scene is incredibly impressive, because it's even harder for them than it is for me. And we've suffered some criticism, and we're 3 straight white guys, so I can only imagine how hard it is if you're not from the most privileged class. So yeah, full support to all those bands, and yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Something great that I've seen in the local punk scene here in the town where I'm living, Dijon in Burgundy, if you've ever heard of that place. We have a venue called L'Étannerie, which is maintained by the local punk scene, basically. And I'm sure this exists in other places as well, but here they fairly often they organize events, concerts, conferences that are specifically dedicated to marginalized communities.
Yeah.
And I think that's fairly frequent in the punk scene, but it's something that does not exist much in the metal scene, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think it could be great for the metal scene and, well, metal concerts organizers everywhere in the world to try to, also in the same vein as in the punk scene, to organize strictly anti-fascist metal festivals with very clear rules about who people are and what they stand for, to kind of create a safe festival in the metal scene as well.
Yeah, and we have played quite a lot of very politicized events. We played a thing called Black Flags over Brooklyn, which is like an anarchist metal festival in Brooklyn, which is really cool. We've played a couple of just like 0161 festival in Manchester, which is an anti-fascist festival of all different genres. Yeah, so like I guess most of our shows are fairly politicized just because of who we are, but yeah, I do think those things are starting to happen more and more. I guess maybe not on a very, very large scale. Like some of these events are still sort of like club shows, like 500 capacity club shows, but I do think it's happening already, and people are starting to try and organize events like this, which yeah is really important, because it's gonna be, you can't just expect to see a diversity in a scene overnight, because if people are constantly told that they are not welcome in a scene and that they shouldn't try and be in the bands and they shouldn't try and play instruments and so it takes a while to, I guess, to heal those problems. So we have a lot of work to do, and we all have a responsibility in that. Yeah, so I guess yeah, we just need to be pushing forward as hard as we can and organizing as many of those events as possible, definitely. I think it's happening already, and I guess we just need to keep driving forward and do it more and more and more. Yeah, that shit is really important, definitely.
Yeah, totally. No, I know you've talked about that earlier already in our discussion. I wanted to ask you about, well, the interactions that you may have with people sometimes, because as a medium that embodies everything that anti-fascism stands for, are there days when it's hard dealing with the shit that some people may put you through? Because, well, you actually said it so earlier already, but I was imagining that you may sometimes or maybe often receive mails, messages, including threats, insults, or whatever kind of not very nice things. So
Yeah.
isn't that hard?
I don't really care, man. Like, well, that's a bit flippant. I guess we've had like a lot of, yeah, we've had every threat and message you can imagine. People have anything you can say. If you wanted to stop Dawn Raid, anything you could try and think of to say to us to make us stop has been said to us, I think, a lot of times. But it doesn't affect me. Because they never come to shows. Like, it's just weird loser children on the internet that never materialize and never come to shows. I'm happy to talk. We talk about these things at every show we have ever played, we have always talked about these ideas from the stage. We've been giving out literature at every show we've ever played. Like if you genuinely want to talk to us about these ideas and even challenge us on some of these things, because I don't think I have all the answers. I don't think I'm necessarily right about everything at all. I'm happy to be challenged. Like, come to a show and talk to us about it. But they're just cowards. They have no interest in actually confronting us. They have no way to actually dispute these ideas because we ultimately we are right. It's just dickheads on the internet that trying to damage this band, and it doesn't work, and it's never worked. And we first started this band as just a black metal band first, but we happened to be 3 anarchists that were doing it. And our first EP, half the songs are political and half the songs are just about my personal life. But we started to get more and more attention from the far right. And the more attention we got, the more we just doubled down on the politics, and the more convinced I became of the importance of actually talking about these things at shows. And I just decided one day that I wasn't going to write songs about my personal life anymore because we had so much to say politically that needed to be said. So yeah, like, I guess it's not the nicest thing to have people chat shit about you on the internet, but I just, like, it's never gonna stop us. Like, it doesn't matter what you say to us, it's never gonna stop us. Like, come to a show and see what happens when you say that shit. Come, like, if you have any guts or any bravery at all, come to a show and say all that nasty shit to my face at the merch stand and see what happens. That'll be my message.
Has that ever happened?
One time in Liverpool, of all places, our hometown, someone came up to me after we played and said that he believed in white pride. And me and the promoter robustly escorted him from the venue, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. So he was... it was made very clear to him that he wasn't going to be able to stay at the show. So yeah, one time ever in 6 years of doing this band. So yeah, fuck it. There's like, I also think like a lot more people get a lot more shit on the internet than we do. You know, if you're trans and in the scene, I can only imagine how much hate you get. If you're trans or queer in most scenes, it seems there's already somebody who wants to criticize you. So I just think fuck it. Like, I'm happy to take any criticism going because we can cope with it, and it's never going to stop us.
Okay, great. So next, maybe you've heard, think of the Antifascist Black Metal Network, a channel that rose over the internet on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook very recently, like maybe a month or 2 months ago, to specifically promote anti-fascist black metal bands.
Yeah.
Will you eventually try to work with them or do something with them?
They did message us. They wanted to host some videos of ours, but we have our own YouTube channel, and Prosthetic has its own YouTube channel, so we can't really be giving away our music videos to other people because we have to try and make some money somewhere at some point to keep this band going. Yeah. But yeah, like if they wanted to interview us, or we're happy to work with anybody who is well intentioned. But yeah, we just can't give away streams or music videos to other people's YouTube channels. But yeah, I guess we're happy to work with anybody who is well intentioned and is trying to build these links in these communities. I think it's awesome that more and more of these things are popping up. So yeah, full support to them.
Yeah, and I'm not sure there was any kind of channel like that was very clear about its intentions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. I think we have to be in quite extreme times, and we have to just be incredibly clear and explicit, I guess, about what we believe. And while there are a lot of good people in black metal, I think the majority of bands and people involved are good and aren't racist. But because people aren't saying it, that's not always entirely clear. So yeah, I guess channels like that are very, very explicit about what we believe are important. Definitely, it's time to pick a side, I think.
Of course. Yeah. I'm going to talk now about something I'm not sure you've heard about because it's something that made the news in France. I know it has had some some publicity as well overseas. Maybe you've heard of it. Recently, two French YouTubers made a video with a French president, and at the end of their video, they invited a famous French metal band to play a song basically for the president. Don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh no, I've not heard about this.
Not at all. So basically, this band, who are kind of known to have technically some kind of punk roots, they said to justify themselves that they did it for fun, which to some extent I guess we could understand. But the thing is, everyone knows the political implications of such an act, playing in front of a president. And specifically right now, I mean, it's an extremely bad move, given how much people in the performing arts in general have been struggling during the pandemic, with, at least in France, not sure how it is in the UK, but in France, very, very little help, or quite literally nothing in some cases, from the government. Well, I was about to ask you how this was perceived in the UK, but if you haven't heard of that, maybe we'll just give out your opinion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't heard about that. I guess there's so much going on at the moment. I guess it's hard to keep up with everything. But I will look into this. Definitely, it sounds an interesting little situation. I definitely wouldn't have any interest in playing a show for any president of any country. It definitely wouldn't be something I would do. It feels like a little bit of a sellout move, I guess. Like the allure of like money or publicity or mainstream acceptance, I guess, is very powerful, and it's very easy, I guess, to compromise on what you believe when you're sort of faced with the prospects of further success. But I think ultimately you have to stay true to what you believe, and I'm sure that will probably negatively affect the legacy of that band, I suppose. It wouldn't be something I would have any interest in, as playing for any member of the ruling class. Yeah, fuck that. But yeah, I guess I don't know enough about the situation to comment, but if we are to play a show for the president, I think we'll say no. So.
Well, you can easily look it up over the internet. I know it has made news in other countries as well, so it should be easy to find out. One last thing I wanted to discuss as well, on let's say parallel topic, well, involving politics, but not exactly the same themes, but which is also one of the biggest problems that the youth of today will have to face, or is already facing, and something that matters to me personally as well, and should matter to everyone. It's about protecting the environment.
Mhm.
Uh, Maybe you've heard Joe Biden in the US earlier proclaiming that June would be Ocean Month. And in any case, in June, on the 8th of June specifically, it's World Oceans Day,
Yeah.
as every year. So, well, it's an aspect that I'm personally fond of our planet because, well, I love the sea, basically. And the thing is, well, oceans, forests, they're the lungs of our planet, and they're basically the reason we're still alive today. Otherwise, we would have already crushed the
Yeah.
planet, quite probably. Um, the thing is, the problem is that because, well, of how capitalistic economy works, well, we're continuing to do shit with the environment and stuff. I personally grew closer to the sea. My dad grew close to the sea, so I have a personal affection with that aspect of the planet. Um, but I've been wondering what the music community can do to help. I'm asking you because, in the end, I believe that political messages for the environment, will also, to a great extent, come out of anti-fascist, anarchist bands rather than others.
Man, oh my God. I don't know exactly how we, or if we are going to save the environment now. There's constant frightening news about what is going to happen to the Earth sort of in the next 50 to 60 years. My understanding of it is that we've missed a lot of tipping points, I guess, and we've passed a lot of milestones from which we can't return. And there's a lot of catastrophes now that feel like they are inevitable, and there's probably nothing we can do about them. I don't know enough about the science about this to speak with much authority on this, but yeah, my understanding is that the outlook for the environment is bad, and there are undoubtedly going to be a lot of very, very large scale negative repercussions of the damage capitalism's done to the earth. But I think we also can't give up, and we can't be misanthropic about it. And I think we have to accept what is coming, but also we have to just fight anyway, regardless of what's going to happen. And I think the bit that interests me, or I find myself drawn to, is I guess there's going to be huge waves of migration as people are going to have to leave certain parts of the earth that are not going to be hospitable to humans anymore. I think it's about it's just the amount of cities that are soon going to be consumed by desert is like quite a frightening number. So I guess there's going to be huge waves of mass migration, where people are going to have to find new places to live and are going to have to move to parts of the earth that are going to sustain human life. Obviously, that's going to cause a lot of political tension because the far right are going to use those issues to try and win votes, and they're going to exploit these situations because they always use migration as a way to look strong while trampling the weak. So as an anarchist, I feel my role in this is going to be to try and help people that are coming here, and to try and help get people to safety, and try and help people set up new lives once they are in safe places. That's something that seems clear to me anyway, that I feel would be my role in this. I haven't really been involved massively in eco or environmental struggle, really. I find myself more drawn to the sort of humanitarian side of things, anti-fascism, like refugee solidarity stuff. So for me, that would be the course of action that seems clear to me I should take. But I guess we also just have to do our best to protect what is left of the earth. And I think also just resisting and fighting back, whether we can win or not, is good in and of itself. And I think we have to try and protect the earth and avenge the earth as well, I think. And as the world becomes a darker and more frightening place, we can still find like freedom and joy in beauty in it. And I think one of the ways we do that is resisting, and not just taking this, lying down, and not just letting it wash over us and letting it happen. And whether we can win these struggles or not, I think just fighting back and resisting and daring to do the right thing is important in of itself. I'm sure there are people who have better answers than me, like environmentally and scientifically, are the things we can do. I don't know a great deal about that stuff, but I just think we have to just not give up, and we have to just do the best to protect those affected as and when it happens. And while the future does look quite dark and a bit scary, there are going to be lots of moments for joy and wildness and chances to resist and do the right thing. And we have to just be ready at those moments, I think.
Yeah, of course. And I personally believe that it's the role of art, not just music, but art in general, to give out all those messages about the issues we've discussed, to help people realize what's wrong, to help people change as well. And I think so. In the end, what you're doing with Dawn, right, is extremely important to that degree, of course.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think like the culture war, I think is crucial. I was introduced to anarchism by picking up a zine at a show, at a hardcore show. I think I definitely had some of those ideas already, and it was a crime think zine actually, and it just sort of laid out in very simple terms what anarchism was, and it said if you believe these things already, then you are already an anarchist. And that's something I've lived my life by, I think, for the last 10 or 11 years. I think the culture war is incredibly important, and I think we have to just be in places that people are, and we have to give people options for a better life and a free life. I think this stuff is very important. Culture and anarchism has changed my life for the better, and you just hope that you can replicate that for other people as well.
Yeah, of course. So now, maybe to try to finish things up, do you have maybe music recommendations of anarchist, anti-fascist bands, not necessarily black metal, in general, that you enjoy, that you could just suggest, give a few words about interesting stuff that you've come across?
Black metal wise, like Trespasser, amazing. I really like that band a lot. Very good people. Met them quite a few times. We were meant to tour with them, I guess, but then COVID has sort of got in the way of a lot of things. Underdark, good friends of ours, very good people. Anarchist, anti-fascist band. Who else? Bands like Iskra, I guess, although not as active. Like Iskra are just for me, the original, the OG anarchist black metal band. I absolutely just love that band and everything that band is, and Skargos as well. Penobscon, obviously, are great. I think outside of black metal, I'm a sucker for Moscow Death Brigade. I think that band are absolutely incredible. They brought me to tears the last time I saw them play. I absolutely love that band. I've been listening to early Chumbawamba a lot recently. They're really famous in the UK for having a couple of #1 singles, like pop songs, but they did a couple of folk albums in the late 80s, and they were always anarchist. They got incredibly famous in the UK for the pop songs they released. They made a lot of money and were famous for sort of pumping that money then into radical scenes and protest camps and all sorts of good things. So that band, Chumbawamba, for me, I like the blueprint on how to conduct yourself as an anarchist in music. We toured with a band called Ragana just before, in January of last year, just before COVID struck. An anarchist two-piece sort of black metal-y, doomy sort of band from the West Coast in the US. They're some of the best people I've ever met, and one of the best bands we've ever toured with. So I can't recommend Ragana enough. I'm probably missing out loads of people, but there are loads and loads of really good anarchist biggest bands, I guess, at the moment. And it's really exciting to see it just growing and growing and growing. When we had our 7-inch out, I think like the top 3 best-selling artists that week on Bandcamp was Dawn Raid, Feminazgul, and Violent Cold. So like the top 3 best-selling black metal artists that week were all anarchist bands, which is like 5 years ago was unthinkable. But all of a sudden, like and at least one of those bands has people are trans and queer. So like that's just like unbelievably inspiring to me. I think we've made a huge step forward with that. And I'm excited to see what we can do in the next 5 years as well. So yeah, the more people talking about this, the more people singing about this, the more people we can organise shows, the more visible all this can be, the better, I think. We're good friends with the people in Neckbeard Death Camp as well, which I know they were sort of a joke band and not to everybody's liking, but I think they did amazing work because it was just so confrontational. And we got a lot less shit on the internet when they came along because all of a sudden they took a lot of the heat. And I think they really pushed forward what anarchism can be in music and just really helped open up these ideas to more people. So yeah, there's so many different tactics and so many different scenes you can do this in, and so many different ways you can build and grow and spread these ideas. I'm probably missing loads of people off, but that feels like a good list to me.
Yeah, and that's great. There are a few I don't know yet, but I know already quite a great deal of them. And of course, it's amazing to see so many bands right now that are making the charts, basically, and so that can make their fight visible, and eventually that will make everyone feel more comfortable about dealing with all those issues. And maybe we can hope that in the not so far future, everything will really get better for everyone.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah. So, we've already been at this for nearly 50 minutes. Do you have maybe any last words, anything you'd like to talk about, anything to add, whatever it is, anything that you feel needs to be said here?
I don't know. I feel like we've covered quite a lot. I don't know. I guess we just need to keep fighting for a better world for everybody, like everything for everyone. And yeah, we just need to keep fighting for a better world. Whether we can win or not, the fight in itself, I think, is worth it. And I think this scene has already made like huge progress in just a few years. And we've seen the far right crop up in punk. We've seen it crop up in oi. We've seen it crop up in techno, in ska, in folk music. Like the far right has tried to put roots down in probably every cultural movement that's ever happened. And we've beaten them in all those scenes, and we can just beat them in this one as well. This is like just like every other struggle before. It's no different. We just have to shut them down, and we just have to create things that are radical and better. And the more people speak out about this, and the more bands that talk about this, and the safer it is for everybody. So yeah, we all have to just keep fighting on the same side and doing our best. Yeah, that'll be my parting shot.
Well, thanks a lot for coming virtually here to talk with me. It was very entertaining for me, very interesting, and I'm glad we had the chance to do that.
Yeah.
So I'll be glad to see you playing a show near my home if that ever can happen. If you can tour around France, that would be great. And wishing you the best for your future endeavors, maybe a new album, new tours, as soon as everything's possible to do again. I'm guessing that you're eager to go back on the stage.
Yeah, man. As soon as we're allowed to tour, we will be on tour. We are not going to waste a moment. Yeah. We started to book some shows already for the UK, and I'm hoping I'm hoping we can get some sense of freedom again safely. So as soon as it's safe to tour again, we will be on tour. So I'm sure we will see you in France sooner rather than later.
That would be great. So I guess this interview discussion has come to an end. Thank you for watching and listening and tuning into Metal Sound Media. We'll see you another time for other interviews and texts about metal music. Thank you for being here.